Ever had another PC kill your character? Part 1. Happened to me the other night. Originally on my monk character, it was a trait that I asked a lot of questions. Then, after a run-in with a mind flayer, I nearly had my brain ripped out and was unable to ask questions after that. In our homebrew setting where cars exist, I basically got slammed into a car windshield and took a huge amount of damage, giving me a concussion. I had disadvantage on all checks until I took like 2 long rests, and as a permanent effect, I could now speak normally and ask questions again. Anyways, when my party finally found me nearly bleeding out in a hotel after they had a wicked car chase, our death cleric decided to crank up his role-playing and straight up decapitate me for simply asking, "What happened?" Hellafist doesn't ask questions, so I must have been a doppelganger. Any PC on PC lethality in your games r/D&D? One of the greatest and most hilarious games of D&D I ever played. We began the adventure in a tavern where I, a dwarf rogue, immediately started slicing the backs of everyone's knees and running away like a giggling leprechaun. Eventually, after starting and finishing a brawl of epic magnitude, we were made aware of a lone female orc sitting at the bar. We encouraged our halfling monk to go over and sing her a song to seduce her, but he was reluctant. We rolled to determine the orc's attractiveness, which was a 3, and made our bard even more hesitant. It was then decided that we'd roll to assess his standards, and the result was, amazingly, a 1. He was successful in his pursuit, and they went off into a back room. Afterwards, due to the orc being a voracious lover, our bard received a +5 bonus to his dexterity rolls for the rest of the session. We eventually left the tavern and went to investigate a cave we believed contained a group of cultists. After downing a few low-ranking enemies, we proceeded through a series of tunnels, which led us to a small drop into a medium-sized room with high walls, complete with columns to support the weight of the rock above. We couldn't see the ceiling. Out of game, we were all fairly tired. This was about 2 a.m. and mildly tipsy. I decided to rest on the couch and began to fall asleep. Obviously, this was translated into the game, and my character found a nice quiet corner in this dangerous room in which to nap. Suddenly, as everyone was looking around, we heard crawling in the abyss above us, and a group of 3 powerful cultists dropped down into the room. 2 were fairly small, but the leader was essentially Dwayne Johnson, and didn't waste any time getting to work on us. One of the smaller cultists began making his way over to me, and I received a nudge to wake up and make an attack. I turned towards the table in the room, casually threw the dice, and rolled a 20, disabling the cultist's legs, with my previously honed tendon slicing in the tavern. By now I was back in the game. I ran straight for the big one and began slicing away, which turned out to be a futile effort. It was here when things to become uncontrollable. Our bard, who was still high on his +5 dex boost, decided to make a last-ditch attempt to cut down Dwayne with his axe. The only problem was that I was in the way. He was going to swing through me. He rolled a natural 20, and with his bonuses meant he actually rolled above 30. I gulped, and he swung. His axe penetrated my body, exited the other side, and sliced through Dwayne like a piece of cheese. The other cultist fled. As I lay on the ground, essentially a torso with arms, I pleaded for a health potion. But we were all laughing so much we couldn't continue. And that was the end of my story. Some time ago, a friend asked me if I would like to participate in a short D&D session. That was the time he got me interested in D&D. 1 or 2 weeks later, he offered me to play the final boss of a dungeon in his campaign. Then the group was finally facing the boss and things became interesting. The cleric of the group had set up some auras that prevented me from attacking while in his range, and I also had an aura that disabled everyone in range if they failed the DC. So for the first 2 rounds, we just stared at each other. The boss had some interesting spells to use. One of them was a teleport, so I just ported into the rest of the group. The cleric followed to stop me from attacking his group, but his aura did not disable spells. I looked through the spell list of the boss and decided on blasphemy to stun the group for 1 round and eventually stall long enough for the cleric's aura to run out. Well, eventually our DM miscalculated the caster levels of the group while designing the encounter, and 4 of the 5 group members got paralyzed instead. The paralysis would last 1d10 minutes rolled by each member individually. All of them rolled 8 or higher, paralyzing them for 80 to 100 rounds. Whoops. The last one standing was the sorcerer who was out of range. He wasn't that useful until that moment as he failed to pierce my spell resistance every time. The boss itself was a demon that was sealed in that dungeon and eventually tried to escape at any cost, so the talking began. I took one of the paralyzed PCs as a hostage and told the sorcerer that I would kill them if he would not release me. After a very long debate, some fireballs at the wall, and several shenanigans by the sorcerer to secure the remaining 3 party members, he eventually broke the seal to rescue the last one. So the demon escaped, leaving all 5 alive in the dungeon as he didn't care anymore the moment the seal broke. But the cleric wasn't very pleased about that and immediately cast Hold Person on the sorcerer and started to attack him. The group convinced him that killing him wouldn't be any good, and in the end the sorcerer wasn't killed, but was brought to court. He eventually left the group afterwards. Another PC left too because he couldn't trust some other group members anymore. No friends were lost here, they just made new PCs. I joined the campaign together with their new PCs. I once killed another player, Pathfinder. To start, yes, we were an evil party. We were also playing a very off-the-rails Skull and Shackles game. It ended nowhere near Paizo's work with us killing Asmodeus, but early on we were still on a boat. In fact, we'd recently taken over a boat. We had some loose allies on this boat, and we were barely acquainted with each other too. We had a ninja, an alchemist, Faustus, the min-maxed lawful evil human necro-cleric of Mephistopheles, and me, a chaotic evil fetchling summoner with a debt to and respect for Nocticula. I'm the reason we've banned Summoner forever here. We're sailing off to some place to reskin our boat and see land again. Faustus decides he really wants to kill all the other crew members on the ship so that they don't betray us. The ninja, our figurehead captain, was initially not okay with this, but her player was pretty weak-willed, so she relented. I consented easily on 2 conditions. 1, he guarantee he still reach port without me doing more work, and 2, he left one specific person alive because I had plans for her. He agreed. He went to do it. He got to her. He thought about it. He killed them all. Upon discovering this, I was furious, so I confronted him. And when he gave me some bullshit answers that told my slightly unhinged self he was the unreliable murderer I suspected him to be, the obvious solution was dispatch him immediately before he decided I was useless too. Now, he's an undead domain cleric with some high health thanks to a lack of age penalties and a high wisdom and charisma thanks to his age and the story feat he had already completed pre-campaign. Pretty strong, could heal and harm with his channeled negative energy and could do it a lot for a level 4 character. I, on the other hand, should have died already to a keel hauling and told the GM, my friend and roommate, he shouldn't spare me, but he liked the character and wanted to see something come of it. We later nerfed me hard by breaking the way demonic prestige worked and replacing a lot of my summoner levels with it, in part because of what happened next. I spammed him with dogs. It did not matter how much he channeled, because there was always more dogs. More buffed, fiendish dogs. 1d4 plus 2 of them around, with just enough health to survive his channel on average, in close quarters, surrounding him. No escape. We ended up retconning it so that he also wasn't dead like me. My friend was a pansy GM and always wanted his players to win. Sort of. Different story. And the bastard still almost walked the same path, thinking I wouldn't do it again and waste the time. He ultimately didn't. Was it a dick thing for me to do? Maybe. But I straight up warned him I would try, since I thought the whole thing unnecessary, but only needed the one. TLDR, killed a player with a swarm of dogs because I told him I would if he murdered one specific NPC, and to hell with the rest. We derailed a campaign due to a conflict between the narcissist wizard, myself, and the Vow of Peace witch healer, my roommate, in which my wizard died, Pathfinder, some 3.5 dabbling. During the campaign, I was excited to finally be able to play a wizard again, so I prepped all the delicious spells. You know the ones. Animate Dead, Charm Monster, the works. Yours truly was Lawful Evil, Party Fighter was Chaotic I Don't Give a Fuck, Party Druid was Neutral Evil, and was terrible the whole game. VOP Witch was Lawful Good. The first monster I claimed was a Triceratops, which I made into a skeleton to ride. One epic bluff check later, I convinced the rest of the party that it was a construct made of bones, not a skeleton from a custom spell I had made, since the druid and the witch were pretty much anti-undead. No conflict. Cool. Second monster was a wyvern, which I also made into a skeleton. They got another sense motive. I got another bluff. Pass. Still clear. New mount. Third and fourth were gibbering mouthers. One I made into a zombie, who I lovingly dubbed Lunchbox. The other I charmed monstered, dubbed Gibbers, which not only passed her spellcraft, for a change, but quietly disapproved of it, free will and all. Time passes. The witch grows ever so restless at my eagerness to enthrall our foes, but continues to say nothing. Exploring a ruined city, we encounter some chaos beasts who have this ability that slowly turns someone into goop if they fail a fort save. Well, I failed that fort save, so I start to melt. We wipe out the chaos beasts, and the witch heals everyone but me.
Release the gibbering mouther from your enslavement or forever be a puddle, heathen. You know what happens when I do. It goes back to trying to eat us. It's safer this way, and useful for once in its miserable existence. Free it or die.
So, continuing to melt and not wanting my beautiful looks to be ruined forever, I release Gibbers. It attacks the fighter, then I go and one-shot it with Scorching Ray.
You could have let it live, like every other monster we've slain until now.
Witch uses an ability to lower my saves, causing me to turn further into goop, and I blind the witch. She flies off, the only one who could heal the ailment. With no other choice, and knowing the useless druid could cast Reincarnate, I have the fighter kill me so I can be brought back. Druid said fuck this, turned into a bird and left. Fighter loots my dead body. Post, witch paid to raise me from the dead in town, so I have no spellbook, no arcane focus, and am forced to apologize on the spot. Game ended there. Me and the witch shook hands, complimenting one another for staying in character the whole time, and the GM agreed, and that was a better end to the game than the one he planned. Pretty sure that's the only time a PC killed me, because I asked them to. Hello, you sweet, sparkling, rosy-cheeked, delicate angels of pure delight and cosmic love. Thank you for watching this video. The response to the channel as of late has been truly unprecedented in the best of ways, and we have you to thank for it, so thank you. Thank you so much for watching and participating. It has come to my attention that Mr. Ripper, the man behind the madness, has never actually had the opportunity to play a game of D&D, despite having been a fan for many, many years.
Nani?
Now, both BM Voices and myself have agreed that this is inexcusable. So, at 50,000 subs, we are going to live stream Mr. Ripper's first ever D&D session on this very YouTube channel. So please sub for that, and also for Nat 20s. Lastly, I just wanted to let you know that I saw your comments about the overemphasis of syntax errors in these stories. I'm sorry to hear that it took you out of the experience. That shouldn't happen. These videos are for you, after all. So I've edited a couple stories in the name of readability. Thanks for letting us know. We really appreciate it. Happy New Year.